What's up? What's up? It's time for Done Way Past Funny with your host, G.D. Fenderson. Join us as we take a look back at the early works of seasoned comedians before they were seasoned with this week's guest, Leanne Linsky. It's time to get down and get dope with Done Way Past Funny. Hi, I'm G.D. Fenderson, certified forensic humorist and host of Done Way Past Funny. Thank you for joining us as we continue our interview with Leanne Linsky, CEO and founder of Plauzzable. Enjoy. I have a short story. Actually, I don't know how long the story is. It's not a very long story, but I was booked to open for a band. And I was asked to do 15 minutes. And they didn't say, they told me I could, and I said, what's the rating? I said, as a general rule of thumb, I rate my comedy as a PG-17.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not vulgar, but I will drop
Right.
F-bombs and I will use inappropriate language, but tastefully. I don't
Right.
just, there's some comedians who like throw out the F-bomb like their material relies on it. And my material doesn't rely on it unless the F-bomb itself is actually the word I need,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever words it is. I pretty much craft it that way. And so they go, no, anything you want. When I get there, so I write this sketch and I get it. That's okay. 15 minutes. Because the other thing I pride myself on, if they say to me, we want you to do 15 minutes, I write a sketch so that it lasts 15 minutes and I don't need a light. That way I don't worry about whether or not I saw the light.
Yeah.
And then I have extra in case they say, well, can you do more?
Mm-hmm.
But I always prepare more. But I wrote the 15 minutes thing, and I knew it was opening for a band, and I said I could say anything I want. And once I got there, they said, two things. We need you to do a clean set, and can you do 25 minutes? I went,
oh, wow.
Yeah, no, 25 minutes is no problem. But now they're asking me to do 10 extra minutes of clean stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. So I said, well, this is something I learned about myself. I said, well, honestly, I will. But I wrote some of my material with vulgar language in the set. And it was part of the set. It's not like I could withdraw. So I said to the audience, I said, here's the deal. I said, when I wrote this material for the night, I did not know that it was going to have to be a clean set. And I have some very bad words in the set. So what I'm going to do is, and because I had like 15, 20 minutes, I researched local politicians in their area and their zip code. And I said, instead of the F-bomb, I'm going to use your governor's name. So whenever I say Governor LePage, that's the F-bomb. And I said, and I'm going to say Senator Collins when instead of penis, I'm going to say Senator Collins. I said, instead of vagina, I'm going to say, and I gave them a list of things. I said, so instead of this is the politician I'm going to say. And it worked out great. And they thought it was really funny. First of all, they thought it was hilarious. I knew who their local politicians were.
Yeah.
And second of all, and they thought I wrote it like that. It's like, no, I really was substituting on the fly. But it was like, no, that I didn't know I had that skill set to do that, to substitute like that.
Yeah, that's funny. I've been booked in a show. I was headlining and they, I went through and asked all the questions and they had the people who booked me, I believe had seen me before even. And so I got up and started my set and I look out and I'm like, there are children here. I was like, I see like all of a sudden I'm like, there's kids. And I just kept going. I'm like, nothing I can do at this point. It's like you, like I don't have a lot of just random, like I don't use cuss words all the time in my set. If I do, it's because I chose that word for a reason and a joke or something. So I did my best. Like I only have like 2, I think, that I use or something in this particular set. And I was able to change them, but I'm like, still, even though I'm not swearing, the content is adult, it's like
Yes,
it's a topic, it's,
yes,
innuendo or things like that, and it's fascinating because even in, you know, producing corporate shows and
right,
hiring other comics to do it, and the comedians will send reels that I'm like, "I can't even show these that to somebody and say," because they have to take your word for it, and if a corporation has, like, a committee, you usually have people putting on the event, they have a
right,
committee or something like so and so from this department, that department, they come together and they put on an event for the employees. They're like, "We can't afford to we can't risk this. We will get written up by HR.
right.
So we can't take their word for anything, And if you're so just hey, if you're a comedian out there and you want to do clean corporate comedy and get paid because you can get really good money for
Yes,
doing corporate
yes,
shows,
yes.
and there's a reason for that, right? Because you gotta keep people out of HR. So, really well written jokes that are HR friendly is super important, and if you plan on getting booked for something like that, have a reel that's dedicated to that. Don't send me reels of you being hilarious with bar humor because it ain't gonna fly. You're immediately kicked out. The other thing that I found fascinating on this, when corporations do their research into these comics, at least in my experience, they went to every comedian's website that we had narrowed it down to. And
Right,
if that comedian had a lot of controversial jokes or non HR friendly, or whether it lent to religion or politics, they were immediately off the table because they knew their employees could research that and be like, "Well, you hired this person based and knew." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this makes it even harder because there are
yeah,
comedians who do clubs and corporate,
right,
but if you're doing corporate, you may want to get a set up a one-page website for your corporate humor and, create space for that and be like, "Hey, I under," or somehow spell out, like, "I understand the nuances of this, and
right.
you can trust me." Because there were some really good people who've done a lot with corporations, but because they had all this other stuff on their page, they were like, "Can't afford to do it in
Ye
today's world," you
yeah.
know?
I was hosting for, a headliner, and I was, hosting for a headliner and feature. So it's kind of redundant, but, just so people, I guess, understand. So this headliner been doing comedy for, like, 35 or 40 years, a long time, and it was adult show, and I somebody brought 2 kids under the age of 13 into the show. I don't know how they got into the show. Maybe
Mhm.
they knew somebody, but they were there. And the headliner was freaking out. And so was the feature because they're like, I'm not gonna. I can't do a child set. I can't. I'm vulgar. I can't do this.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll go. I said, well, I'll go out and I'll talk to the parents of the kids. So I walked out and I said to the parent, I said, excuse me. I said, you realize this is an adult show? And he said, oh yeah, he's heard it. He's heard it all. And I said, really? And so I looked at the kid and said, could you do me a favor and tell me the words you know, the bad words you know, real quick, just so I have an idea what we're working with? And the kid just stared at me. And I said, no, it's okay. You heard your parents said you already know this word. So I just need to know what you know so that we can gauge this. And and I said, for example, do you know? And I didn't say the word. I said, never mind. And I looked at the parent.
Yeah.
I said, even if he knows the words, I can't speak for the other two comics, but I guarantee you that my innuendos will have him asking you questions
Yeah.
that you are not going to want to answer. And they didn't believe me. And they sat there. And so I said, okay, fine. And so I went and I started. And sure enough, they had to like earmuff the kid and get him out the room. And the other couple followed suit, got the kid out.
Yeah.
I did my job. I made it safe for the other two comics to come out. But
Wow. It's interesting. It's also interesting to me, and I don't know, I don't have kids, so I I speak as a person with no children, but I think when it comes to comedy, I don't know of a lot of comedians that are kid-friendly comedians. I don't
yeah,
I maybe because I'm not a parent, but in general, even in all the comedy that I've done, I don't know
Mm.
those people. I know more of them today than I did years ago, obviously. But and I know there's a space for it, but typically when I think of comedy, I don't think, "I'm gonna take my kids." I just I mean, yeah, because even when I was growing up, my family's very funny, but the humor, I would say, is not
Oh
kid
yeah.
friendly, and the jokes I was encouraged to tell were probably never appropriate at any level, you know,
Yeah.
so I don't know, I would be as that's a head scratcher for me.
I was opening for a band, and again, I was hired to open for the band, and I was hired to do an hour, and I was hired to do adult comedy, and there were two, at least one, at least two kids in the audience. Again, minors, and so again, I I I talked to the parents, and they said they were fine. I said okay, and so when I got to the really adult section about sex, and it was like a 5 minute, 5 or 7 minute bit about sex. I stopped. And I said, okay, adults. I said, here's the deal. I said, I'm going to clean this up for the children in the audience. I said, I want you to know I'm going to change it to playing poker, but I want you to know that I'm not talking about poker. I am talking about sex, not poker. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I went ahead and I changed my routine to be about poker, and the audience, like, they just loved it. Again, I didn't know that I didn't know I had, that was like totally improv, making turning poker into sex, totally improv. But again, it's just like you said, it's just sometimes you have to be prepared for almost anything, even
Yeah.
though you shouldn't have to be. If somebody says to you, this is an adult show, you don't expecting kids.
No,
And
you're
yeah,
not, and it's like, hey, if it's an adult show, it's an adult show, and I think it's clean comedy also doesn't mean kid friendly.
right, that's true. That's
It
true.
just doesn't. It mean clean comedy can mean different things to different people. Corporate, so therefore, like, I classify corporate comedy, it's gotta be HR friendly. Like, it's gotta be where you're gonna keep people out like, there's a lot you could do with work humor and things like that without getting you in trouble, and you don't need to talk about, like, sex or drugs necessarily. So I think people do that well. But I think just saying clean, like, I think there almost needs to be, like I mean, there is clean, and most comics know what that means, but I think separately, kid friendly is a whole different ball game because
Yeah.
clean can still have a lot of topics and stuff that are adult or bigger world than
Yeah.
what a kid can comprehend, and still may not be appropriate, a lot of questions to be asked. But, kid friendly, I would think kid friendly means kids understand the jokes.
Now, on Plausible, when
Yeah.
people use Plausible to produce their shows, is there a feature on there where, let's say, when they sign in, in other words, if I'm
Mhm.
doing a show for an adult, do they have to click and say I am 18 or older,
Yeah,
or
when you agree to our terms of service, you're saying you're 18 or over. We do not have, anything for kids.
okay?
Yeah.
So
We
so,
don't
so
cl
yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So when you click, "I accept our terms of service say you're 18 or older, and, we can't guarantee that what you're watching is approved for children. So
So if the audience, let's say the mom or dad signs up, they're 18 or older, they're fine. It's fine. But then they decide to watch it with their kids. There's nothing we can do about that at
no,
all.
that's on
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
That's on
because
them.
yeah,
Like, know what you're doing. It's like them choosing a movie on Netflix, right?
yes, yeah,
If they're watching a movie on Netflix, and it has nudity, cussing, sex, drugs, those things, and they're watching it with their kids, that's their parenting choice, you know? And it's the same for, when you go into Target and you buy a game for your kid and it says
right,
age 6 and up and your kid's only 5, but he's the smartest kid ever and they say he's a protege, parents,
yeah,
and that's on you. That's your call if you think
right.
it's appropriate. Do you think your kid should wear a VR headset at the age of 6? I don't think so. It says right on the box, it's not made for people under 13. But
But
do you
my
who do
but
you
my 6-year-old is so mature.
right, and it's like, okay,
He
yeah,
can
but
babysit my 6-year-old
how
can babysit my 6-month-old.
right, but how's his vision gonna develop, you know? So that's on you. It's not necessarily content in the metaverse, it's like other stuff, like the equipment, what can it do to them developmentally? So, but yeah, we are 18 or older and yeah. And but to your other point, when comedians sign up and create their account, they can categorize what kind of comedy they do. So
Right,
if you are a comedian who does club humor, moderate, maybe you're somewhere in the middle, clean or corporate, whatever that is, you can check all of those boxes so that if someone's looking, there are people who prefer clean comedy, and that's great because we do have those on Plauzzable. You can do a search by that choice, and then comedians can also put in like what topics do we typically talk about? Maybe there's
right.
comedians who talk a lot about their religion or politics or relationships. They can check all of those boxes too. So, if I'm coming on and I'm like, I don't want to think about any of that stuff. I just want like maybe some uh puns and wordplay or relationship humor, they can look for comedians who do that. And
Yeah.
and shows, eventually we'll have it so you can sort by shows that way, but it shows you might get a mixture of those things depending on who the host books. Yeah.
Yes, I ask these things because like I said, you're well, plausible is like the answer to a lot of the stuff that so because like I said, I want to perform my stuff for people and I want them to see it, but also want to like I said to um I want to reach people, but I also want to document so that I want to be able to store it and have like and with plausible you can get a downloadable copy, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you are the host comedian, you have the ability to record the show. Obviously, you'd want to clear that with the other comedians who wants their stuff recorded or
Yeah.
not. Yeah.
They don't.
So you
Yeah.
know. So, we don't let just anybody record the host, and the host can work it out with whoever they booked on their show, because the host will have the ability to publish the whole show or download and edit it. And so, like, if someone in a mic or a show says, "Hey, can you record my set?" You'll be sure to record their set and maybe stop recording after their set. And after the show, you can download and send it over to that person. So you don't
Right.
have to record a whole show. You can record segments thereof or things like that. And then, of course, you can publish it to the past shows library so fans can come in and see what you've done in the past. And it will also appear on your comedian profile page.
Now, when they stream it, when it's when it's performed live, it's available to people through plausible.com,
Mhm.
through those people. But can you simulcast to, let's say, YouTube? Or I'm not sure you want to, because if the idea is to make money, you're
Right.
doing on plausible, you can charge.
Correct.
I mean, you can
Correct.
do free shows on the plausible if you want, but if the idea is to make money, you don't want to simulcast it on YouTube
Correct.
because that would be, well, why pay for the cow when you can get the milk from another cow? I think that's how that goes.
Exactly. Yes. So, that is exactly right. So, ideally, you'd want to invite people to join Plauzzable and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna be doing stuff on Plauzzable. So if you wanna see me in real time, and catch one of my shows, create your free account." And then obviously Plauzzable notifies people every week of what shows are happening, and then, you can also update your fans and be like, "Hey, I'm doing a show on Plauzzable this week." They log in and they see you in real time, and if you're charging ticket price for that, they would pay on Plauzzable and everything, and then they would see that they're registered and they would log in on Plauzzable to watch you. Just like if they're logged in on Netflix, they can watch Netflix. Um, if you log in on Plauzzable, you watch on Plauzzable. Now, Plauzzable does allow comedians to stream to YouTube. That's the only channel that we do stream to if you want to.
Right,
And um, to your point, if you really want fans on Plauzzable that are gonna pay for you, why would you stream it for free?
right,
So you're absolutely right. There may be instances where some people may say, and the reason we did is, let's say you're doing, a special show or something like that, you can stream to YouTube, uh, to record on YouTube for later because YouTube has different editing tools, right?
Right.
And then download it and never make it public on YouTube. You could do that.
Right.
Um, that's one thing. But let's say some people do podcasts like you, right? So
Right.
let's say you're like, I'm only going to sell a certain number of VIP tickets and I'm going to record my podcast in Plauzzable, but I want a live Plauzzable audience. And
Right.
so you can sell tickets on Plauzzable. People can log in on Plauzzable, watch your podcast happen in real time. We can see and hear them. They can see and hear us. And then you can also stream to YouTube, record either on Plauzzable or on YouTube, or actually, if you're streaming to YouTube, you'd record on YouTube. If there was something special you wanna do, we didn't wanna rule it, completely out because there may
Right.
be some instances where that made sense, but in most cases, I would agree with you 100%. If you're business savvy, the smartest thing for you to do is have your audience come to you on Plauzzable so you can monetize it. If you keep giving your jokes away for free, people are gonna expect them for free.
Now I give away my old jokes for free, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like for example, I just headlined last week, and because last week was my wedding anniversary, I took as many jokes from my 10 years of experience in comedy and just made them about my 18 years of marriage. But some of
Awesome.
those
Congratulations, by the
thank
way.
you. But some of those jokes are like 10 years old or 8 to 10 years old, and some jokes are like for my next special. And
Mhm.
so the ones that are for my next special, which I'm going to put on Plauzzable, I've already just yes, I've
Yay!
decided. I've decided I'm going to I've decided to do it. I have to decide how I'm going to do it. The way I want to do it, I'm going to tell you this now. Even though I haven't asked my wife yet, and she's in the other room, and if she can hear me, I'm asking her now by proxy. But no, but what I would like to do is to have like maybe 6 or 7 friends live in my house for
Oh,
my
yeah.
energy, and then shoot and then record it so that it's on Plauzzable for everybody
Mhm.
else. But this way I have an audience in my face that I can react with,
Yep.
and then have the Plauzzable audience,
Yeah.
there. And so that's the way I want to do it. And the way I'm thinking is I have my tablet. I mean, I could move my entire computer downstairs because it is in my house, just a lot of wires. But I'm just thinking of using my tablet, or maybe even use my wife's computer, because I can use her computer and still log into my account,
Yes.
her
Mhm.
tablet.
Yep.
And if I do that, there's a wireless Bluetooth lapel microphones, and they have like a C USB port that you can plug in, but you have two mics, like for podcasting, and
Mhm.
one I would wear for me, and the other one I would put for the audience.
Well, you know what you could do is if you have a audience of, like, less than 10 people in your living room, they're gonna hear you in your regular voice,
Right,
your room so you don't need to be mic'd for the room, like, you don't need a speaker in your room.
right,
But on Plauzzable, what I would recommend is you can get a handheld USB mic. So
hmm,
a handheld mic, like you're doing stand up with your mic in your hand, but it's connected directly to your computer that you're recording on. And that way the sound goes directly into your recording
right,
and the audience in your living room, they don't need a speaker or an amplified because you're in the living room. So it works out fine. You're not gonna get reverb or anything. But all of this that you're planning, the beautiful thing about it, guess what? We know from experience that you're gonna do a tech rehearsal,
right.
and then
Yes,
I can help you, the Plausible team can help you. Like, we have, live human, uh, uh, Plausible 101 sessions every Monday evening and Saturday afternoon. And so you'd come with like, "Hey, I want to do all of these things." And then we could help answer all of your questions, make any recommendations of like a mic or something like that. But like if you set a tech rehearsal and schedule with us, like one of us can show up to your tech rehearsal and make sure like everything's connected. This is how it's going to be set up. Here's all the
right,
things you want. Yeah, and make sure it's running with everybody who's going to be helping you. because if you wait until the day of and have all those people in your living room and
Yeah.
online,
Yeah.
like, that's a lot. Like, like, we wanna make it as fun, first of all. We want it to
Yeah.
be enjoyable and fun and smooth process for your fans and you, because when you show up to do your comedy, we want you to focus on your comedy and
Right.
the tech be it's taken care of. We don't wanna make it harder than what it is. So
Right.
we're happy to offer you support and answer all your questions well in advance so that when you get your tech rehearsal happening, it's like, let's run this top to bottom. Okay, let's play it back. Did everything record? Did, all of that work? And then the day of the show, everybody log in, do a quick sound check, video check. We're good, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally doable. I think it's awesome. I'm very excited.
Yeah, because the thing is I have the biggest problem here's the problem I was having was that with my last 90-minute show, when I was done, I kept it to 90 minutes because the very first time I did a 90-minute show, it ran over by 20 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and that was because it's kind of funny in the sense that I had a stage manager who was supposed to keep me, basically let me know about my time and stuff.
Mhm.
And he was in the back of the room, and he was supposed to light me at 30 minutes, light me at 60 minutes, and then light me when I have like 10 minutes left in the show. 20 minutes into the show, I see him get up and leave. He had a family emergency.
Oh no.
And the
Oh
show had started. And I'm like, and I had no idea, and especially when people would say something and I would like go off on a tangent
no.
and I
Yeah.
don't deduct the tangent time from the show time. And so I'm still going with the rest of the show. And I picked up from and next thing you know, it was like 20 minutes over. And I
Yeah.
had no idea. And the audience was along for the ride. The audience wasn't tired or anything. I thank Marvel movies for that because Marvels had conditioned people to sit for like 3 hours,
Oh,
as opposed
yeah.
to because most people are thinking, well, 90 minutes, my ass gets tired. It's like your ass gets tired if it's not interesting. Now,
Right. Yes.
I'm not saying push it to the limits, but I'm saying is that people are more enduring than they think because they've watched 3 hour movies. If they're Marvel people,
Yeah.
they watch 3 hour movies all the time. Oppenheimer was what 3 days?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was, like, forever. Yeah.
Yeah, and my wife and I just sat and watched that.
Well, it's interesting because 'cause I've been paying attention to online comedy shows, and so shows in which on what I've experienced is 55 minutes is a ideal point
Right,
because it builds up the energy and leaves people wanting more. But after that 55-minute part, we inevitably see maybe a drop off of some attendance or people got to go or the vibe changes.
right,
And so and that could be for a variety of reasons, right? I think after we've spent so many years online, people are kind of like, okay, I can do this. It just seems to be like a natural breaking point of about 55 minutes. Movie, I agree with you 100%. In person, comedy shows great. 90 minutes is like an ideal time. But I've noticed like just watching people on Plauzzable, there's like a cycle of like so that's interesting. I'm curious to see how your show is produced because some shows can go longer, obviously, and then other ones like sometimes the breaking point is right around there.
well,
So,
I've decided because of like the show the third one I did, um when I was done I kept it to 9 minutes. It's like bam, 90 minutes and I'm done, I'm out.
yeah,
And when I was done, I still had like 30 minutes of material that I never used that
that's okay though.
I wrote,
Yeah,
I had,
yeah,
the thing is, kept going, I went off on tangents, and when I went off on a tangent, I would just skip, you know. I just went ahead until when I had like 10 minutes left. I said, okay, whatever I haven't done, I haven't done it. I'm just going to go to my 10 minute, I'm going to go to my ending and wrap it up. And
yeah,
so when I did that, I had this chunk of like 20 to 30 minutes of material that I did not use. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to use them in the next one. So I
yep,
already started off with 30 minutes of material. And that's not even counting the fact that I'm still writing. So now I have like almost I have like 2.5 hours worth of material, close to 3 hours worth of material. So I thought to myself, that's the way by the time I rent a theater, I don't have the money to rent a theater for like two separate shows.
Right.
So, but on Plauzzable, I could
Yes.
I could break them up into 3 1-hour shows, which is what I was thinking.
Yes.
3 1-hour shows on Plauzzable, and maybe once I get it all laid out, maybe do one a month. You know, get one out.
Yeah. I think that would be fantastic. And then, yeah, absolutely. Why not? Right?
Yeah, and
Because
and
then you
just
can do more without having to just because you wrote it, like, doesn't mean it has to go all in the same thing. You can
right.
take the tightest, hour and then still work on this 30 minutes and combine it with your next and
Yes,
make it super tight 1 hour, because then if people have a great experience at this one, they're gonna be like, "I'm definitely coming to the next one.
exactly.
I'm definitely" like, always leave them wanting more.
That was my thinking, to do an hour, and an hour, and
Yeah.
build up an audience. Just when I'm running out of material, it's like thank you all for becoming
Yeah,
my fans. I have nothing left.
I
But thank
love
you.
it.
No,
I
no,
love it. Yeah. I think that's really cool. I'm excited.
Hi, I'm GD Fenderson, certified forensic humorist and host of Done Way Past Funny. Thank you for watching our continued interview with Leanne Linsky, CEO and founder of Plauzzable. And please come back to watch more of our interview with Leanne Linsky. And when you come back to join us, bring a friend.